It's time to talk about the important issues for the natural state. And there's only one place to turn for that. Opportunity Arkansas's Nick Horton. You can find Nick's work at opportunityarkansas.org.
Welcome back to First News. Of course, it is the Wednesday edition, just about 19 minutes in front of 8 o'clock. And so this afternoon, the CEO of Opportunity Arkansas, Nick Horton, is going to be hosting the Steve Finnegan Show between 4 and 6. So make sure to tune into that. So this morning, we're going to visit with Jay Robertson, who is the policy director at Opportunity Arkansas. And so he is joining us now for our weekly visit. And Jay, welcome back to the show. How are you today?
Hey, Toby, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. It's been a busy week, a lot going on, and happy to join you.
No, we sure appreciate it. Before we get into some of the business, Jay, I know that via some of the social media posts that you and really everyone at Opportunity Arkansas were deeply affected by the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. How disheartening is it to see someone who had a very large platform but was really working on a lot of the same topics that Opportunity Arkansas does, to see him get murdered in broad day like that over his political views? How tough is that to digest it at this point?
Well, it was tough. I think it hit all of us very hard. And for me personally, as I've had time to reflect, it reminded me is that the way that I got started in this kind of work was as a college student. And we would set up tables and debate and have conversations with people. Mm-hmm. And when I was a student, we hosted the first presidential debate when I was at Ole Miss between Barack Obama and John McCain. And it calls me to remember that when that happened, it was almost like a festival. I mean, we had students from the left, the right, the center, everywhere you could imagine, engaging in protest and debate. And people had strong opinions, but we never felt unsafe.
Right.
There was never a threat of violence. And so, we've been grieving for Charlie Kirk and his family and what they're going through. Mm-hmm. And as I've had more time to reflect, it's really made me grieve for the fact that I don't think you could have that same type of experience today.
Right.
So if there's anything positive to come from this, I hope that we can look back at this as a point where people said, we're no longer going to tolerate this type of violence. And if it leads to a generation of students that are now energized and engaged to speak boldly about their opinions, I think we'll be all the better for it.
Well, we're definitely hearing about a lot of energized students that are reaching out to Turning Point USA and wanting to start up Turning Point USA chapters on their college campuses, and so I think we are seeing an energized youth movement at this point, and so we'll see where that goes. But Jay, I want to get into some of the business here in our state today. An Opportunity Arkansas recently released some new polling on what voters think about the education freedom in our state, and so which from the numbers of participants this year, obviously looks like this is a very successful program, talking about the LEARNS Act here in our state. But what did you find out from your latest polling about what our state thinks about this program right now?
Yeah, so just as a refresher for folks who might not have been following along, education freedom this year became available to all families in Arkansas for the first time ever. Families can utilize an education freedom account to allow their tax dollars to follow their student to an educational environment that meets their needs. And we've done a lot of work to hear from parents about how this is changing their lives. We've shared stories of Paula Bean, who was a public school teacher that decided to homeschool because it was better for her kids. And she said she cried the first time she got these funds because times were tough, and this allowed them to buy curriculum and get therapy for their kids for the first time ever. And so we've heard stories of how this is changing people's lives. But what we do at Opportunity Arkansas is we also want to get data to get the facts out there about how is the entire state viewing this program. And so we commissioned this poll, and the results are frankly really surprising, encouraging, and astounding. So for the first year that this program is now available to everybody, we are seeing that it is more popular than ever.
Yeah.
That's the big takeaway here. 2/3 of Arkansas voters support education freedom and the Education Freedom Account program. And this support spans party lines. If you listen to the news, you might get the perception that this is controversial or it's partisan. The numbers don't bear that out.
No, they sure don't.
Yeah, all voters across party lines
everybody's
support
in.
this.
Yeah.
Democrats, Republicans, Independents. The most astounding thing we found, so we also narrowed down the results to ask specifically parents of school-age children what they think about this program and if they support education freedom. And we asked the same question 2 years ago and found that 61% of parents support education freedom and the EFA program. The latest results that we've just published show that number has gone up 20 points. 81% of parents in Arkansas support education freedom and the Education Freedom Account program. 81%.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That is an astounding number. This is an 80-20 issue, and parents love what they're getting. They want more of it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing how many people are how many families are accessing this and using it. And like you said, I mean, you can't drive home the fact that it is on all sides of the aisle at this point, and that's a wonderful thing when you can create a program that works for everybody. Now, Jay, one of the questions that comes to my head is that, we're seeing all this participation in the EFA program and through the LEARNS Act, but what will be the education information that we look for in, I would think, the near future that shows that this new way of viewing education and using our education dollars is working outside of the participation numbers? I mean, do we expect to see, test scores go up, or do we expect to see literacy rates go up here in the state? Is that the expectation? And then when do you think we might start seeing data like that, in the future?
Yeah, well, the research here is pretty clear. There's been a lot of studies done around the country in all kinds of states that have programs like this. And what the research has consistently found is that education freedom, giving parents options, leads to improved academic outcomes, not just for the students in the program, but for all children. Whether they're in public schools or in private schools or home schools, it leads to academic outcomes improving across the board. Mm-hmm. And we know that's true because the research shows it, but it's because when you give parents an option for the first time, they have the ability to choose something different. Mm-hmm. And we know that kind of competition allows even public schools to open up and provide new options and innovate and do things they weren't doing before. And that leads to improved outcomes across the board. Another thing I'll mention there that, I mentioned that we polled parents in this survey. Mm-hmm. A majority of those parents in that poll, we also asked what kind of school they're currently using. A majority of those parents have kids in public schools. So even public school parents are supporting this program because they're seeing it work, and we're going to see improvements across the board here. And so I think also we got to keep in mind that the most important outcome here is parents seeing that their kids are learning in a better environment.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about accountability, and I think when a lot of people use accountability, what they really mean is compliance with a government rule or regulation. Mm-hmm. Parents are the ultimate measure of accountability because nobody knows a kid better than their parents do.
That's right.
And I think the numbers and enrollment we're seeing in this program are growing. And so people are staying in this program. They're joining it because they're seeing the impacts that it's having. And so I think everyone in Arkansas should be really encouraged that this thing is working. And the takeaway here is that we should continue to support it, to fully fund it, and reject attempts to try and add some new rules or add some regulations here or make things harder for parents here. Mm-hmm. We should keep this program broad and flexible because it's working. And as we continue to support it, we're going to see lots of positive long-term impacts for the kids that are now getting what they need.
Jay, you said something that I've got a question about because I'm not sure if I quite understand it. You talked about that in some of the polling that whatever the percentage was of parents, they had kids in public school that they were accessing the LEARNS Act and the EFAs. How do you use the EFA if you're going to public school? How does that work, or what is that aspect?
Yeah, so we polled parents, and a lot of parents have. We asked whether you're actually using the program or plan to use it in the future. And so everybody can access a public school, or they can use the EFA to find a different setting. So what's really remarkable here, though, is that these numbers undercut that narrative that this is just a program for homeschool kids or families who use private school. Even public school parents support this program. And so I think that's the reason that we're really excited about these results and want to share them with people, because it's contrary to what you might expect.
Yes.
But that's why we do this kind of research, because this is what Arkansas voters really think.
Yeah, I fully understand what you're saying now, that, there's families that their kids are in public school, but even though they're in public school, they still support the LEARNS Act and the EFA programs. And so that makes a lot of sense to me at this point. But Jay, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I do encourage everyone to go look at this polling. You can find it at opportunityarkansas.org. You can find it on the Opportunity Arkansas Facebook page, Twitter account, their YouTube channel, so you can go check out all those places to see the different LEARNS Act and EFA, the education polling that Opportunity Arkansas has done. But Jay, it's always a pleasure to have you on the air, and appreciate you joining us this morning, and we will do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Toby.